Let's come on to talk about partnerships, because we know we faced a raft of challenges post-COVID, and the conversations I've been having with clients and local authorities over the last 18 months is that unified coming together is the way to address those challenges. But good partnerships require compromise, and that can be difficult. It requires a lot of goodwill as well. When you've got competing priorities, it can be difficult. But we've got some great experience of partnership working on the panel. So let's dive in. I think everyone was biting their tongue a little bit because they didn't want to mess up my flow. So Esther, coming back to you, obviously, it's, development is fraught with risks. COVID, you seem to have flown through it though, going from 2 years from nothing to now. So what extent can that be mitigated by kind of a positive working relationship with the local authority?
Well, I think those of you that have worked with me or know me will know that positive working relationships are absolutely key. And I often have been in the industry long enough to hear sort of relationship building skills quite often described as the softer skill set. I really do believe that actually they are critical to making a project successful in the longer term. And you're all professionals. You all work on these kind of projects. So you've all had, I'm sure, examples where having that genuine personal relationship with a partner, a stakeholder, or the community will actually have the impact that you want and make those decision-making processes much more efficient and expedient. So it is the absolute core of what we do. That's one of the main reasons I joined Reef Group, because they believe in that. They believe in that partnership working being the basis of success. And as you just said, Nikki, what we've achieved in 2 years is because of the attention, the resource, the time, the effort that we've put into working in as collaborative and as transparent a fashion with our partners. It's the only way to do business, as far as I'm concerned, and I think it definitely brings about, that's borne out by the success of the project that we're working on there. So, I could wax on about this for quite some time, but I'll let the others also answer.
Any advice to others in the room thinking about investing in Gloucester? Top tips?
Well, I think, first of all, I think it's great. We'd welcome more investment, because ultimately that's a win-win situation, and we all prosper from that. As I think, Alex was saying, we feel like there's a real sea change and there's a momentum building, and it would be great for that to continue. And the one thing I would like to say is that I think I'd really hope that anybody investing or developers coming would do their homework and would make sure that they actually really understood the change in aspirational levels and in ambition that the City Council have got, and so that they can continue the drive towards quality, which is what we've been trying to do, and the drive towards environmental and ESG credentials, which we've also been trying to uplift substantially. So I'd like to think that they would take that and move on and even progress that potentially further. And then the other thing I probably would say is that Gloucester's got the most incredible below ground heritage and archaeological interest. We've been finding some incredibly interesting things on one side. As a developer, it also you absolutely loathe those early morning calls from your contractor where they say, "Oh, guess what? We've found another body." She says about Gloucester. We found some incredible finds, but I think when anybody working in Gloucester, when you're looking at your budgets for your pre-construction and for your contamination contingency and your archaeological contingency, double it at the very minimum, because it always seems to be the gift that keeps on giving. But we're getting there, and we're through the majority of it. We've been spending a lot of time this summer, as you said, making the best use of the time that we've had to undertake a whole raft of enabling works. We've been diverting a whole river, which is actually culverted under the site. That's been a good one. As I said, we've been having a very, very detailed archaeological investigation, which has found all sorts of things. We found a medieval stone coffin with 2 bodies inside it, and also an amazing figurine of Venus, which we genuinely were pleased to find, and we will genuinely be feeding that into the interpretation of the whole development once it's complete. And we've got some great ideas about 3D models and digital overlays of how the site would have looked before it was developed. So we're going to make the most of it, but you just, underestimate it at your peril.
Thank you. Patricia, moving to you, because I know you're tight for time this morning. So you've got a number of investors in the room, a number of investors on the panel. What's your ask of them? How do you want to work with them in partnership? What gets the best outcomes for the West of England Combined Authority?
So it depends what we're talking about. As I say, we cover a wide area of things, but if we're particularly talking about building homes and developing sites, I think that the first thing I would say, you know, our partnerships are broader than just us an investor. It usually involves the local council as well. I think the first thing is making sure that we've got an aligned understanding and set of objectives about what we're all trying to do, and you get that honest conversation up front. So where we, you know, in particular, for us, the mix of housing is really important, as well as the speed of the development. And I know from the investor's side, and I get the question many times, what land can we get, what's available, and so on. So I think it's those bringing those parties together to basically make sure that our aspirations do align before we enter into the partnership, and then through the partnership, making sure that you know, and many of the developments we've got happening and in other areas, making sure there's those regular check-ins, both at working level, but also at more senior and possibly even at political level, that we keep that alignment of those aspirations. I could talk all day about it, but I think I'll stop there because to just pick one aspect of it.
There's been one question from the floor which has got 2 likes, which is the most of all the others, which I think is probably best for you to answer, Patricia. So it's from Ben. Hi, Ben. How can the Southwest move from back to normal to back to better?
Yeah, and I mean, we cover the west of England, but actually our borders, if you like, are permeable. The key thing is we need to build back both better and greener. And make sure that we've got all the right ingredients in the Southwest to really be leading not just the country in this, but the world. We've got the right skills, and we've got if you like, the history on the green economy. We're the people that know about it. So I think we've got a real opportunity here to build our green skills, but secure those green industries and those things that, you know, and some of that will be our inward investment, which we've got our team working hard to attract the sorts of companies that we will want in the region, but also it's about helping our current businesses, working with you know, some of the fantastic assets we've got, things like the National Composite Centre and our fantastic universities, to basically make sure that we're building that next generation of things and lead the way, both on the business side, but also how we do public sector. So, you know, we're talking about home building. We've got real opportunities here for modular. People have been talking about modular for a long time, but actually let's do something really exciting here. Let's actually have the bases where we're building those homes. And the same in transport. We've got a real opportunity here to, you know, start thinking, you know, through our mass transit work. It won't be, of course, immediate short term, but to start thinking about the next generation of it. So it's not just building back what is before. There's been I think a deep societal shift and a culture change. And at the same time, whether it was COVID, I think it was happening anyway, climate has just, and the concerns about the climate have just shot up the political agenda and a part of our everyday lives. So we need to build a world around us that reflects that and actually addresses those concerns. And we need to start doing it now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was an undercurrent in the Southwest for probably the past decade, and COVID has just accelerated and brought it to the fore. Yeah. Thank you for that. Alex, you've talked about the working relationship with Standard Aberdeen in Portishead, but when you enter a new partnership, so what are you looking for in terms of what tempts you to say, yeah, we'll partner with this, and what do you need from the private sector?
I guess 2 things really. I mean, Aberdeen, as I think they're now known, in Portishead. I mean, it's an early one. It's pre-planning. That's been really about relationships. So I have an 8 o'clock every Wednesday in our T-shirts with my counterpart at Uberden, talking about, you know, the politics, what we need to do next, what we're going to do in terms of our next piece of consultation. And there is there is a positive relationship there, which means that we can be really honest and straightforward with each other. I think the other thing we look for is credibility. So, and a little bit of an understanding of local government. So, I suppose 2 things really. I'm not interested in investing in, you know, a 100-bed hotel on the M5 because the market won't. If the market won't, then why should I? That's not going to sort out socioeconomic challenges in Western. It's just going to tie me up in knots for months, and it's not going to really deliver me anything. I want people who are going to understand, I guess, the impact that their investment in our places can have a genuine impact, because I've got to sell it to my members. And I think usefully as well, an understanding that local authorities are complicated businesses. You know, we're a unitary authority, but we're really small for a unitary authority. But we are still a £180 million business every year. You know, over £400 million capital programme. That's complicated. You know, we've got thousands of staff, so I can't rock up to a meeting and do a deal there and then. It takes time. I've got to get through various layers of governance. But I guess a credible partner that gets that, actually. And then I think really, if we can, keep it simple. Let's not tie ourselves up in too many sort of corporate structures. Let's just try and keep it simple. And in Weston, we're intervening in the market, and we're going to be bringing forward land in the next year there, and we need something dead simple so we can get on and build something that's good enough and will be delivered. So credible and simple, I think, are really, really important.
Thank you. And Rebecca, I've not forgotten about you. But from what you've heard, and I know that you guys are quite keen to get involved in the Southwest market, are you confident the region can provide the support you need for a successful project?
I mean, does this work? Yeah, it is now. I dropped it on the floor. All of the conversation today has been incredibly positive, which is great. I mean, I think we talked about kind of simple and transparent partnerships. I think from local authorities side of things, and even from developers side of things, you know, I think the investment world can sometimes be a little bit opaque as to, you know, what's the colour of your money and what is your alignment. Interesting, you've got 2 institutional investors on the stage. Our partners are Canadian pension funds. And so I think understanding for developers and local authorities what the colour of the money is from the outset is key, because all of the things that you've just talked about, so ESG, you know, the ESG targets that we all have to do as institutional investors, not because we have to do them, actually we're driving a lot of the Canadians in terms of driving the agenda in terms of what to deliver. But it's also very difficult without just greenwashing. So, you know, it's actually creating real targets, not just talking about ESG because it's the new buzzword. You know, the focus I mentioned, the social benefits of what we're doing on the rented sector, I think are often overlooked because everybody's so focused on home ownership and the traditional models. Mm-hmm. I think real tangible goals around the E. It's all very good to say this is environmental and everybody's very aware of it, but how do you measure it? What is actually important? You know, what is going to be there for the 20-year duration and not just to tick a box in planning? And we all need to help, I think, each other to do that as well. And I think that's about these conversations. So, you know, we were talking before about how are we going to get more housing delivered in the UK and in the Southwest. You already said the models for the house builders is there. It's pretty simple. You don't need to attract them into the sector. But I think trying to attract different models will help affordability. It will help supply. It will help communities. And so I think having more an awareness of those mix, I think, is key for everybody, and probably for the West, I think. Because build to rent, if I'm honest, has had always quite a bad... Everyone talked about premium rents. Well, what does that mean? It goes to expensive. I said it's been a stable income. You know, we've got some challenges coming forward because, yes, it's been a stable income, but we're in a period where you haven't had real wage growth yet. Rents are linked to wage growth. You've got construction prices increasing immensely, hence we need to embrace modern methods, and everybody is aligned in that. And you've got land prices, plus all the different tax changes coming in. So it's an interesting market. It's a difficult market, I think, for everybody at the moment, but I think having those conversations, understanding, as I said, the colour of the money and then aligning things from the outset, I think is the way we'll get housing delivered in the southwest, and hopefully we'll get to do more investment.
Absolutely. That brings us on nicely to a question we've had from the floor. They didn't put their name down. Thank you for it. How should the southwest capitalise on the trend to suburban living? Do you want to take that first, David?
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm still thinking about your, we're trying to do a deal in Gloucester at the moment. And if somebody phoned me up in the morning and said, we found another body on site, I'd have no idea what I'd say. What would you say? What the hell would you say? Incredible. I've never heard anything like it. Okay.
Yeah. But it's manageable.
I'm sure, well, I'll come to you for advice. How do you do with that? Sorry, what was the question?
How should the southwest capitalise on the trend to suburban living?
Yeah, so I think, so from an institutional perspective, so a lot of people live in the suburbs already. So there's an enormous market in the suburbs, people renting in the suburbs. The PRS sector is huge in the suburbs. It's just not huge for institutions. So the build-to-rent sector is sort of moving in that direction. I sort of go back to what I said earlier on. The supply is the challenge for us at the moment. It's how do you efficiently buy land? How do we accelerate delivery? Does the sort of single-family suburban model actually accelerate the delivery of housing? And we think it should. So the ears pricked up when you started talking about the piece of land there. Hopefully we can have a chat about it. But this is a sort of shameless plug. We at the moment, Legal & General is sort of built on partnerships, very long-term, stable partnerships. That's what we're very good at. And with this market, the sort of suburban sector, Legal & General's ambition is to own these assets forever. That's what we're here to do. So we'll be there to manage it through sort of ad infinitum, and that hopefully is good, as long as we do a good job and build a good team. Hopefully that's good for the sort of long-term benefit of locations for local authorities. So we really want to partner with local authorities. We do it already, but not in the single-family market. So we'll partner with house builders, we'll partner with local authorities, we're going to need a bit of help. But I think what's the benefit we bring, and how, so to go back to the question, how do you capitalise on, how does the Southwest capitalise on this new trend? It's sort of learning by doing a bit, up to a point. We certainly don't have all the answers for this market because it's a new market, but we're a big enough group to be able to innovate in it and then test what we've done over time. And it really is a long-term play. That's, I think, what's interesting and exciting about the market is it's only just started, it's very nascent. Everyone's talking about how do you get the supply, is it going to happen, when's it going to happen? It definitely will happen. It will happen over a long period of time, and I think it will gradually grow. And there'll be lots of subsectors within it, and everyone's got a slightly different idea of where to do it and how to do it. We want to be, really reliable, stable manager of family homes, really, for a very long period. And that hopefully brings with it benefits to local authorities and helps to sort of create stronger communities.
Thank you. If you've still got time, Patricia, have you got time to take this question? Is the Southwest joined up enough? Is there sufficient collaboration and shared commitment across the local authorities? That's an awkward question, I think.
We cover the west of England, so not the whole of the southwest. I think there's partnership working has really gone to another level in the region, and yeah, it's not always perfect, but I have to say it's pretty good. So in terms of the local authorities joining up, first of all, our officers are regularly meeting at all levels and working jointly on projects. And as chief execs, we speak at least once a week. We have formal meeting every fortnight. The political leaders meet every fortnight, and so on. And then whatever it is that we're working on, the other partners and how that comes together, I think is pretty impressive. So if I pick an example, I'll take the example. I'll use it again. The Portishead line. If you look at the people involved in that, there's ourselves, you've got North Somerset Council, and we're jointly leading that work. And then you've got Network Rail, who are, of course, the sort of a client because of the way Network Rail work, but we're the Uber client because we're paying for it. And of course, we'll be letting a contract to actually go and make the thing happen. Now we're through DCO process. That working's been pretty good. Network Rail has slightly different ways of doing things. So we've had some honest conversations around that. And I have to say it's been really positive. Their plans for change and they see this as a flagship project for how they will do place-based projects in the future. And I think we're really leading the way in some of that and how we're working collectively. So I have to say, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good.
Pretty good, yes. So in the short answer, yes.
Yeah.
Alex, interested in your views on that question as well. Do you want me to read it back again, or is it joined up enough, basically?
Well, I mean, it could be better, because from our perspective, because we're not in a combined authority, and I know under the previous administration we sort of did that to ourselves, really. But this administration, under Don Davies, we're on record, we would like to be in the combined authority, so we could be more joined up. I think we definitely miss out on funding for things like skills. Having said that, not being in, we have drawn down quite a lot of investment through the LEP over the years and delivered on it as well, when not just Portishead Rail, which there's a lot of money tied up in there, things like Food Works, which has now stimulated a food and drink sector in Western, a lot of public realm in Western. So it could be better, just demonstrably, because we could be properly at the table. But we still go to most meetings, even if it's just to find out we can't have that bit of money. But whether it's the crumbs off the table or bending things so we can be part of it, or ingratiating ourselves in other partnerships that get us to the table, we duck and dive to make it work for us, really. But it's the region, like every other region, is dealing with some intractable problems, really, of years of chronic underinvestment in infrastructure from the public sector. Nothing done by policy anymore. Frightening housing targets. And so things are difficult, issues are difficult. But I guess, just talking about that, we've got about 140,000 homes to build in this region over the next sort of planned period, which is a stonking number, really. How can we industrialise that? Why don't, instead of it just being a discussion about impact and that bit of green space, and we're not having that in our patch, let's industrialise it. Let's get a housing factory in the west of England. Let's get those skills into it and get people into work, into stable jobs, start stabilising the market. The industrialisation of the housing delivery is a much better sell from a place-making perspective and a political perspective than impact from potato printing around the countryside.
I'm not going to disagree with Alex, of course. But just to say on North Somerset, in relation to the combined authority, it is more than crumbs. We work, we have to live within the politics of what was delivered to us. So we do work together, particularly on all our strategies and plans, because basically we are a region that's a coherent whole, using the jargon, we're a functional economic market area. And so North Somerset is absolutely part of our region. So bringing that to life so our local industrial strategy, we're working currently on our mayoral plan, a strategic plan for the region. And that's basically, as well as the local plans that the councils are producing, we're working with the councils, including with North Somerset, to look at how we make that work as a region. And that's where we will, there would normally have been the duty to cooperate, but we have that vehicle.
Absolutely.
That we have
we
those
do work very
conversations.
closely on these strategic matters, even if we're not in, but we're as good as in from a planning perspective, and it might politically, sometimes you hear things, but actually we work very closely very, very closely together.
But as Alex says, the issue is we can't spend the combined authority
No,
money
right.
in North Somerset. But there have been some exceptions.
And
Like
we have done pretty well.
So I will agree.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we've done pretty well.
Thank you. And lastly, just from the kind of investors and developers in the region, do you feel that the region's sort of joined up enough?
Who wants to go first? It's a massive region, isn't it? And I previously worked with the South West Regional Development Agency, so that was a whole other realm. And for those of you who can remember the regional economic strategy as well, which is probably a bit of a bad word, but I think. It's very important that it does function as a region and is joined up, because that gives us reassurance and gives us confidence, really, that the political arena is stable, and that helps in terms of making decisions about where to invest our time, because we know that there is going to be a consistency in terms of decision making. So it is really important. It's a very interesting dynamic in Gloucestershire, because you've got Cheltenham and Gloucester. Yeah. Quite different in terms, and quite historic in terms of their relationship. But I think that's changing for the better. I think this kind of concentration on the cyber sector is really helping to actually galvanise and increase that amount of joined up thinking, which is all for the better. So as a whole, I think I probably agree with both Alex and Patricia. It's good. It could still be better, probably. But it's a massive area to try to get joined up in that way, and you'd spend your entire life in meetings if you were trying to do that on a personal sort of basis. So you've got to have some pragmatism with it as well.
So we're doing pretty well, but always room for improvement. Well, unless there's any other questions, I've finished mine as well. So just lastly to say thank you to the panel for your responses there, and thank you to all for listening.
I think you'll agree that's been a fabulous session, a very informative morning. I've got there a load of notes here. I'm going to try and summarise very briefly. I won't hang around for too long, because I think it's fairly hard to sum that up. There's been such a wide variety of topics, including dead bodies, as we mentioned, but also opportunity and a railway station. My parents live in Portishead. They'll be delighted. When's the date?
Very soon.
Soon. Okay, fine. You sound like my dad, actually. It'll be soon, don't worry. But anyway, in all seriousness, there's obviously a very strong economic pull to the southwest, as major investors who are here today are proving. But it's great that the economy is building, and it's building. One of the themes that we touched on this morning that we wanted to cover off was the responsible built environment. And it's very obvious today when you're talking about true placemaking. Placemaking means lots of different things to different people, but it sounds like true placemaking is very much at the core of what's been discussed this morning, which has been a recurring theme, which is great, and adding to things like the social value. And I think there's real genuine activity or drive to go down to that social value element, rather than it just be about the weights and measures, if you like, of a particular development. And I think that's refreshing to hear. There's obviously some fairly hefty housing targets, which we won't go into, but I think the cavalry are here anyway, so hopefully that'll be satisfied in the not too distant future. Is a fairly chunky target. Anyway, I think that's enough from me. Back to the panel. So thank you to David, to Patricia, to Rebecca, to Esther, to Alex, and to our fabulous chair, Nikki. It's Nikki's debut today, so thank you very much for that excellent job. Our next breakfast is actually next week, and that's the Three Cities Alliance in the West Midlands. If anyone has any involvement in the West Midlands, that should be another fabulous breakfast. Our next South West breakfast is the 4th of November, so please do put that in the diary, and that will. The panel is building for that. We just had a confirmation from Tim Atkins, who's a managing director of Place and Growth at Cheltenham Borough Council. So we'll go along, and that will take very much more of a residential focus scheme, whereas actually today's been a bit more general. Obviously, loads of good things discussed, but that will be a residential focused breakfast, and that will be the 4th of November. And hopefully we'll be able to accommodate more people. You probably guessed by the numbers. If you're a regular here, you'll notice that we'd probably have normally double the amount of people here, but slowly but surely, I'm delighted we've been able to get back on the horse, so to speak. But hopefully next time we'll be allowed to, or be advised, not allowed, I think that's a better way of describing it, to enable more people and for you to meet more people and to have more people involved. I'm very much looking forward to that. So thank you all very, very much. It is genuinely fabulous to see you all here. Hopefully that feeling has been reciprocated. Thank you to our panel and to our chair. Have a great rest of the Thursday, Friday, and enjoy your weekends, and hopefully look forward to seeing you in November. Thank you very much.